Fabio Corrirossi. I work at Oniride. I'm a head developer there. It's a virtual reality specialized software house. We do virtual reality for about 4 years now, and it's our main focus. Okay, so comics and immersive storytelling in virtual reality. We are used to hear about virtual reality in gaming especially, but virtual reality is about basically everything. So it's about entertainment, it's about business to business, etc. Why not comics? So, but in order to do so, you have to do it in the right way. So you have to know what a comic is in the first place. So brief history of digital comics. Digital comics started with scans. Scans are just basically scans, so you have a digital version of your comic. This is not an augmented version of the comic. This is just a porting, okay? And this was the first augmented try of comics. Was motion comics. So a hybrid between a cartoon and a comics. Not very successful, even for a great major like Marvel, like DC. And I think because motion comics are against some of the rules of the comics, okay? So studying this evolution and studying what virtual reality is in the ultimate years, and studying what about studying comics, so people who wants to read comics in paper, that are the majority, of course. We want to bring comics in virtual reality. Why? First of all, for their capabilities, because let's face it. Developing in virtual reality is expensive. Is expensive much more than in 2D, even to do simple stuff. So in order to tell stories, you have to spend a lot, and there is no efficient way, efficacious way to do so with a cost of a comics. So this is our first reason, okay? We want to tell great stories in an affordable way. And this is not just about cost in terms of money, but also cost in terms of stories. This guy, Corrirossi, is one of the guys who can have everything, because he could do director, he did a director of very great movies, but he chose to stay in comics because he had the power to tell great stories. It was a freedom for him. This is what sometimes even money can't do. You have a major like Marvel that can bring to life basically everything, but yet there's something missing, okay? So this is for 2D version, but in VR it's the same thing, okay? You have to spend a lot and you have to sacrifice something, and this is something to consider. So, introducing VR comics. Okay, VR comics are real 360 comics, okay? You have the page, you have the panels all around you. It's an important thing to do. And it's something that I'll tell you about, that it's important because you have to create the immersivity of virtual reality inside something that is still, because the comics is still. So we did the very first experiment, okay? We did the very first VR comic, and this is case history, because we presented Magnetique in 2015 for cardboard, and back then it was the best choice. Now it's not, because cardboard has some limitation. Do you know cardboard, the difference between cardboard and virtual reality? Please raise your hand. Okay, in virtual reality you have many devices, okay? You have high-end devices like Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, PlayStation VR, etc. And there are low-budget VR devices like cardboard. Cardboard is actual cardboard where you put your smartphone into, and you have a low-budget virtual reality device at the cost of your smartphone. Okay. This is something very effective to bring the news of the virtual reality into the world, but this is something dangerous because the quality of a cardboard device is very low. So, okay, we did our experiment in Lucca Comics 2015, and public responded well, but we wanted more. We wanted more immersivity, we wanted more engagement. So we did the next step, and we bring Magnetique into a first GearVR platform of Samsung. And is a small trailer. Okay. This is not the day to do technical stuff, so I'll tell you. We brought to life this story. This is briefly a story about a revenge in this cartoonesque mood, drawn by an artist, an Italian artist, who has, of course, some influences from Japan, as you can see, and from French. And this was the story that we proposed because it was a story that has some features. First of all, the type of drawing that was perfect to start this experiment. And second of all, because I write it, so that's it. Where and when we did this for Oculus Rift, now, Samsung GearVR, Google Daydream, and soon for Vive and PlayStation VR. But what I'm about to tell you today is how you do a VR comics and what you, in my opinion, you have to do and what you don't have to do, okay? So the tech behind a VR comic, not just 360 pages. I started this talk by telling you that VR comics are 360 pages all around you, but there's more, okay? Because have you experienced 360 movies during these years? YouTube, Facebook, I believe yes. These movies does not have stereoscopy. Okay, so you can tell the distance between objects. You can tell if a character is near me, a background is very, very far. And this is something very trivial because it adds a storytelling level, okay? I can tell, using this technology, I can tell to the user, okay, you're in a very wide space or you're in a closed room, okay? So this is the very first thing. Then you have to create the graphic card. Creating the graphic card for VR comics, it's not that easy, okay? Because in 360 movies, you have cameras. You have machines that do the job for you. Of course, that job is not easy at all. But the distortion for the 360 images, the ones you saw on Facebook, etc., are made from cameras that do the trick work for you. In this case, you have a human drawer that has to do this. So you have to teach him how to do that. And how you do that? Well, this, I think, is the most common format for 360 images. It is called equirectangular, okay? It's the format that you saw on YouTube when you scroll on 360 videos. This format is very difficult to draw in because it has a very powerful distortion, especially in the central part, okay? This can be easy for the central part, because you can draw basically without distortion on the middle level, so eye level site, but top and bottom have some very strange artifact when you draw in. And this is something to consider. Of course, if you have a scene where bottom and up and top are basically color, you can use this very effectively. This is the 99% of the choice. This is a cube map. So basically, you open a cube. And this is one of the most effective ways to tell the drawer to draw. And in order to do so, you have to teach the drawer to use the cube map. So you have to tell him, okay, in the front there is that, in the left there is that, and there in the right there is that. But you have to tell him, okay, in the front there is a sky far from you, and there is a plane near from you. So you have to draw everything in layer. We are talking about digital drawer, okay, not paper drawer, because you have actually the need to have this in, okay, let's say Photoshop format, but to say in terms. And one of the things that I think it's mandatory for me, of course, it's no motion comics, please, okay? Because you have to do real comics. You have to read it. Some animations can be effective, like particular chip said, in this case from a Google Daydream guy, and they had something on the scene, so particles in the sky, smokes, some minor animation, translation, rotation, etc. But animating the characters like they did in the motion comics is something that comic readers, I think they don't want it, okay? So it's important to know what to add, but it's important as well to know what to leave behind. And this is something that you can tell to the drawer and he will be very happy. Tools. We spent a very, very large amount of time to develop something that can help artists to do so. In our case, we developed Photoshop plugins that can help you drawing stuff in 360, and that can help you visualize stuff in 360. And this was a very challenging task because you have to meet something very technical with something very artistical. And we did these tools, and I invite you, if you are an artist, to contact us at cdk@oniri.com. We are giving the tools for free. We wanted the community to grow, to tell us feedback, to say to us, okay, there's need to add this or not. As you can see, you have the cube map where the art is drawing, okay? And you have a very practical way to preview. And it's also Facebook ready, so if you want to share it with your friends, it's easy. So it's about helping artists. What I'm telling you today is that comics in VR are an effective way to tell stories, and I want even more people to do so. Because, as I said before, it's a storytelling technique that has is very, very powerful. And this is something very important. It's a thing that you have to treat with respect, I think, because in 360 movies, okay, you have the movies all around you. But then there are some theater, digital, virtual theater in virtual reality, where you have the frame in front of you, okay? And you see a regular movie in virtual reality in a frame. These are two different things, the two different things that I enjoy, so I enjoy much in a very different way. But no one see a regular movie into this screen and see, okay, it's a VR movie. No. They say it's a movie in VR. But there are many examples of people putting VR comics comics in a small panel, and they say to you, okay, it's a VR comic. It is not, okay? In order to do, to actually make a VR comic, you have to tell a story in a different way. You can't script write in a regular way, where you have panels, where you have many things to accomplish the storytelling. So you have to this white page, and this page can tell you very lot of things, but you have to be smart about it. And this is an example, okay? In this part of script writing, sorry, it's in Italian for the English speaker, I write what's going on the scene, and I write what's going on in every part of the scene. So I write to the drawer, okay, to the artist, okay, in front there is a father that shouts to the son, and in the back there's the son that cries on the sea. This is very important, because you have to tell the artist where things are. In this scene, I used something for storytelling that is called a 360 technique. You can decide what the user will see, okay? You can make a scene which is 180 degrees. So basically in front of you, you can turn your head in a very small part, and you can see all about the scene. In this case, you have the father in front of you that points in your direction, and you automatically turn around to see the son. This is something you have to pay attention, because you have to teach the readers to read your comics. You have to engage him. You have to put the balloon in a place where they can find them. And this is something that 360 videos are doing well in most of the cases. But in VR comics, it's very trivial in a different way, because in a 360 movies you have something that moves. Okay, if you see something that moves, eventually you will be at the front of the scene, because the scene plays around you. In VR comic, the images are still. So if a user enter in a scene and see nothing of the story but details, it's something wrong with your script, it's something wrong with your implementation. There has to be some clue in front of the user at the first entering of the scene that tells him, okay, in the scene maybe the father dies, okay, it's not spoiler. And so you have to engage him in a very efficient way. So you can use some techniques. One of them is a view from the center of the scene. It's a very classical way to do things. You have the spectator sit in the scene. You are the center. You can see in this scene people running from a war, and you are actually running with them. In this scene, you can see the divided layer to do stereoscopy in our algorithm. And you can actually tell inside VR that they are really close to you. You see them really close to you. Or from a specific point of view. This is something much more cinematic, because you tell the user, okay, you are super parted, you are like a god that sees the scene, and it's a very effective way, these two, to tell stories, and it's one of the way that I prefer, because you don't have to turn around like crazy for the scene, so you have the things important in front of you. Of course, the drawing is in 360, so you can turn around and see everything you want to see. And because it's a VR comic, you have all the time in the world. That's why I don't love motion comics. Because if I want to see something, I can use my own time. That is actually the same thing on on paper comics, on digital comics. This is a technique very used lately, for example, from Sam Smile and the Mr. Robot VR experience. And he did something that many people considered before his short movie, not useful. He put a camera behind a car, a cabinet, sorry, and you have the two characters talking to each other in front of you, one on the right and one on the left. It seems like, okay, but why am I in 360 if I am seeing two characters in front of me in a very limited way? It is not, because the immersive feature of this movie was enough to see, okay, I'm with them, I'm hearing their dialogue, I'm hearing what they're about to say, I do not have to turn around, but if I turn around, I'm actually with them. So it's a very smart way to tell the user that is in the scene, but with a camera more traditional in the cinematic sense of way. And this is the scene in the script, right? Okay, you have the father, the shouts, and from the other side you have the son. Okay, this is focusing attention, attracting the eyes. In this case, not all the people see the sun. This was a very effective test for our storytelling techniques, because many times they didn't see that there was something on the other side. So it is effective, but some people may miss it. And this is something you can play about. It's like an Easter egg, okay? If you play it like an Easter egg, where in the games you can find things hidden, in the comics you can find something to find, something engaging to find. So how I tell you these stories? In comics, there are balloons. In VR comics, there are balloons. Simple as that. We did something that it may seem like, okay, it's not a big idea, but it was. When you look with your eyes at the balloon enlarges itself. And this is because in almost every VR experience, you have voice that guides you. But in this case, you have to read. And most of the times, the readers have to leave his glasses out from the device, because the devices are small. Not every glasses fits in the device. So you may have a user that can't read small fonts. And in top of that, we're adding a voice dubbing. This is something that we did after a trip in France, where they say to us, okay, it will be very cool with voice dubbing from half of the people. The other half of the people, they say to us, no, we do not want voice dubbing. For us, is reading. For us, is reading comics. So we put them, but with a simple turn-off option. I'm not a fan of voice dubbing either, but I think for some people it is very engaging to see some narrator tells you the story. What about panels? Panels in comics are basically the soul of the comics. Okay, you have pages that tells you many seconds, hours, even months of the story, divided by panels. This is something that brings you to different time-based stories. In this case, you really don't have panels because you have a scene, but you can use them in some ways. One of the ways is to actually, for example, in this case, draw the scene, and then use the panels to tell scenes that happens in the next seconds in a sequential way. So imagine you are in this plaza, and you see these panels around you, in front of you, and these panels tells you how he built his tent. This is a way to bring you closer to the regular comics. And as I told you before, there are reading times. Okay, you have to read your comics in your own personal way. And one thing that I want to tell you, that VR comics are not meant to replace traditional comics. I want to come back at night and see, okay, today I read the comics in a normal way, today I read it in a VR way, today I play video games. I have to do, I want all the options, okay? And this is very important. That's why I tell you that you have to respect comics, that you have not to put animation that blocks your readings, and you can tell the user, okay, if you want to stay in a page 1 second, you can. If you want to stay in a page 1 hour, you can too. So, VR comics, where we are going and where we like to end up. Okay. We want to go in a place where VR comics are standard. I am a VR developer. I see many VR products going out day by day. But VR comics are something that I really want. And not just because we develop it, but we want to see other developers bring VR comics to the world. And if it's not with our tool, I hope with our tool, I want to see many comics. I want to measure doing the same stuff, not in panels. And in order to do so, okay, this is something that our business department tells me to put in the slide. We need investors, but I wanted to tell you, not for an economic matter, but how much it costs to do one chapter. Okay, these numbers are variable based on what artist you bring to the work. But as you can see, they are not expensive. And as I told you before, this is something very important, because if I want to make 200-page stories that last 4 hours to the readers, is not like make 20 minutes 360 movies. So help us bring Batman versus Iron Man, please. And telling you what is VR comic is, it's not equal to see a VR comic. So we are at the virtual reality game dev area. We have Magnetique, the very first 2 chapters that are in the store. And if you can and want, please come to see our product. Thank you.